One ordinary morning, the wise professor walked into his classroom carrying something rather unusual, a large, empty glass jar. His students watched with curiosity as he placed it gently on the table. The entire class fell silent, sensing a lesson was about to unfold, but they had no idea just how meaningful it would be. Without a single word, the professor began placing large stones into the jar. One, then another, and another, until the jar appeared full to the top. He looked at his students and finally broke the silence. "Is the jar full?" A chorus of yes quickly filled the room. The professor smiled, but he didn't look convinced. He reached under the table and pulled out a box filled with small pebbles. Slowly, he poured them into the jar. The students leaned forward as the pebbles rolled into the empty spaces between the large stones. The professor gently shook the jar until the pebbles settled. "Now," he asked again, "is it full?" This time, the students laughed and replied, "Probably not." Nodding with satisfaction, the professor revealed a third item, a bag of soft, fine sand. He poured it carefully into the jar, and the sand slipped easily into even the smallest spaces between the stones and pebbles. When the sand reached the brim, he asked again, "And now, is it full?" "Yes," the class shouted. But the professor was not done. With a playful smile, he brought out one last object, a cup of coffee. The class burst into laughter as he slowly poured the coffee into the jar. It seeped through the sand, pebbles, and stones until the jar was truly full at last. Only then did the professor speak seriously. "This jar," he said softly, "represents your life." He pointed to the large stones. "These are the big things, the most important things: your family, your health, your dreams, your meaningful relationships." His voice carried a quiet strength that made every student pause and reflect. "These pebbles," he continued, "are the smaller but still important things: your job, your house, your hobbies, your responsibilities, and the sand. The sand is everything else, the little things, the distractions, the unimportant details we waste time on." The room grew silent as his words sank in. "If you fill your jar with sand first," he said, "you won't have space for the big stones." His message was simple but powerful. If you spend your time and energy on trivial things, you'll never have room for what truly matters. Life will feel full, but not meaningful. He walked slowly around the classroom and added, "Take care of your health. Spend time with the people you love. Work on your passions. Invest in your dreams. Because when your life is almost over, you won't care about the messages you sent, the things you bought, or the hours you spent scrolling your phone. What will matter," he said gently, "is whether you built something meaningful: love, kindness, memories, and purpose." The student raised her hand, smiling. "Sir, what about the coffee?" The professor laughed warmly. "I'm glad you asked. The coffee represents time with friends. It shows that no matter how full your life seems, there is always room for a cup of coffee with someone you care about." The class smiled, but deep inside, everyone understood. This wasn't just a story. It was a truth about life one many people forget. After class, one student lingered behind. He approached the professor and looked at the jar thoughtfully. "Sir," he said quietly, "I think I've been filling my life with sand." The professor gave a gentle, knowing smile. "Then, my boy, it's time to empty your jar and start again." That night, the student returned home with a heavy yet hopeful heart. he sat down and thought deeply about his own life. He realized he had been chasing grades, likes on social media, and things that were convenient but not meaningful. He had mistaken busyness for purpose, so he picked up a notebook and wrote down 3 things that truly mattered to him: my parents, my dream of becoming a writer, my health. For the first time, he saw clearly what his big stones were. From that day forward, he made a promise to himself: fill the jar with the big stones first. And slowly, his life began to transform. He spent more time with his parents, having conversations, sharing meals. He wrote every single day, even if it was just a few lines. He took morning walks and chose healthier habits. Life didn't suddenly become perfect, but it became lighter, calmer, and more meaningful. He still had Pebbles work, studies, entertainment, and he still allowed some sand fun distractions to slip in. But now, they no longer took over his life. He no longer pushed aside what truly mattered. His jar was finally full, not with noise or busyness, but with purpose. This story reminds us of something simple yet essential. Life will always try to fill your jar with sand first. The world will constantly distract you with things that look urgent but are not important. But you get to choose. You decide what your big stones are. You decide what deserves your time, energy, and heart. In the end, when you look back on your journey, you will realize that the fullness of life was never about owning more, achieving more, or impressing more people. It is about cherishing what truly fits love: passion, health, connection, and purpose. So pause for a moment and look at your own jar. Ask yourself the same question the professor asked his class. What are the 3 big stones in your life? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories here on English Life Tales. Reflect, learn, grow.